Marie-Claude,
Oui, maman.
oh là où t'es, l'école maman. Oh là où t'es, l'école maman. Oh là où t'es, l'école maman. Oh là où t'es, l'école maman. On sortit l'école, tout chivé à chiffonner. Triphi, oh là où t'es, l'école maman. 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 Ou pas s'apprendre. Moi-même, moi pas comprendre. Ou qu'après, tout ça, c'est nom. Moi pas blé mon ni, moi fort. Là, moi faire ou sortir l'école. Marie-Claude, oh là où t'es, Marie-Claude, oh là où t'es, les mots faire mal, faut pas crier. Marie-Claude, oh là où t'es, les mots faire mal, faut pas crier. Marie-Claude, oh là où t'es, les mots faire mal, faut pas crier.
Come in, y'all. Like and share. You're listening to Bill O'Man. Bill O'Man. Y'all, I could work for DBS, man. Come in. Like and share.
Marie-Claude, écoute ça, moi dit. Fais ça, fais là, mais pas mener tes mots ici. Marie-Claude, écoute ça, moi dit. Fais ça, fais là, mais pas mener tes mots ici.
Like and share.
Marie-Claude, écoute ça, moi dit. Fais ça, fais là, mais pas mener tes mots ici. Depuis papa mort, pour mal arriver.
Aïe, 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 Marie-Claude. C'est ça, Marie-Claude qui a fait.
Someone can say that Marie-Claude,
Happy Sunday. Yeah, yo. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. I could listen to this all day. How are you? Happy Sunday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is a special transforming trauma session tonight. I'm Dr. Triphi. I'm a licensed psychologist in Atlanta, Georgia, but I am originally from the beautiful nature island of the Caribbean called Dominica. I had the experience today of riding in a lift. And as soon as I said, yes, I'm from Dominica, when the lift driver asked me, where are you from? He asked, oh, yeah, down there, right? Close to Puerto Rico. I said, yeah, but not that one. A little further south. We are further south. We speak English and a French Creole. And so the song you were listening to was in French Creole, which is a language that our ancestors, our African ancestors, created, I say, to save their lives because they had lost their language. And they created Creole to communicate. And so we have this beautiful legacy of this lovely language that leaves everybody right now on the island bilingual. I want to welcome you. I want you to, when you come in, like and share. Share the good news that we are on. We're having a meaningful conversation again tonight. This time we are talking about the trauma of politics. The trauma of politics. Now, for time immemorial, I think human beings have been traumatized by politics. We've got wars, we've got discrimination, we have people who are afraid to, in many countries, speak up for fear of what others might describe as backlash. I personally felt uncomfortable. So, this is my story as to why I'm talking about politics more these days. I felt uncomfortable in the spring of this year when I went home to check on my dad, who was at the hospital and was getting worse by the hour, it seemed. And he is an elderly man, but he did not seem to be getting worse because of his age, but because the care he was getting was honestly not consistent. It was not consistent. It was not consistently good. And so I spoke up about it. And to my dismay, I was dismayed by it. Somebody from home texted me with nervousness in the text. Nervousness in the text. I could, the tone of the text was very nervous and said, you might want to stop doing these lives about your thoughts and feelings about the hospital because people will call you a bad name or they'll say you're a negative person. And I said, no, this can't be because, we have a history of high vocal engagement in the country. And as I kept talking, I think more people started saying, yes, I feel uncomfortable. Yes, I feel uncomfortable. Yes, I feel uncomfortable. And I've made it, as psychologists, I want to do, when there's a problem, psychologists look for solutions. And you try to look for solutions that are as efficient as possible and are as quick as possible and cause as little suffering perhaps as possible. So I think me, using myself, I intend to continue to speak more about political situations, about political events, because we're alive and policies impact the individual. So tonight I have a returning guest, Mr. Paul. Mr. Paul is the former director of the Government Information Service in Dominica, which is the corporate news arm, I suppose. And he's also former liaison of the diasporans in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So I think he is well qualified to speak with me tonight on what is unfolding as a potentially traumatic event potentially traumatic event, politically traumatic, for our former UN ambassador. And Mr. Paul will help me talk more about this. I'll tell you all more about the story. I want to just welcome him first before we start talking. So, Mr. Paul, welcome again. As you unmute your mic.
All right, can you hear
I
me?
can hear you well.
Saka fet.
Mola mola,
Oula.
eu.
Hey, mon bien, mon kabo, bon Dieu, tout, merci qui me, vous bon, mon gars, merci, mon là, ma malade,
Oui,
ma faim, ma
oui.
dormi dehors, vous bon, so,
Ou bon.
Che mon kabat, mon sa oui,
That's
mon
right,
levé, bon
that's
matin
right.
là, mon parler, ba famille, mon parler, ba enfants, moi. So, moi là, et pas pour dire la vie, pas ni, ti bobo, pas ni,
Right,
mais, ma rappelé, oui.
right.
But it's good to be here. Again, thank you for having me. For those people who probably are, not too familiar with the Creole, I'm here. I give
Yes,
God
please
thanks. I'm
translate. Yeah.
I'm alive. I can breathe. My heart is beating. I woke up this morning. I spoke to my children, my family. It's not that life doesn't have its speed bumps and its little bruises, but I'm not crying. I'm not complaining. Overall, I see the glass half full as against being half empty. So I'm grateful. And I was sharing with one of my coworkers in the last week. A young man who just came in on the job and was complaining about everything. And I said to him, listen, man, just man up. You're here for a reason. Nothing in life is a bed of roses, and even if when it appears so, there are thorns.
Right.
So take it on the cheeks, take it like a man, and let's roll, man. Let's roll. We can't be sitting here complaining. So this is pretty much me, and I just want to be grateful to God, for everything that He's blessed me with, and the opportunity, most importantly, to be a voice, to be able to speak, to use whatever He's given to me to the benefit of my brother, man. And I'm certainly very delighted to be with you, someone that I've known for my entire life. So that brings a little bit of comfort. I never want to be too comfortable, but that brings a little bit of ease, so to speak. That kind of thing.
Well, welcome again. Welcome again.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm a psychologist. A lot of my work is in trauma assessment and trauma recovery, investigating trauma processes. Trauma is, if I have to sum it up, I would say that an event becomes traumatic based on the individual's experience and perception and interpretation of the events occurring. Trauma is also very individual, and it's based on our neurobiology. So it's based on the way we're even pre-programmed in the way that our brain, the individual brain works. And that means 10 people might experience the almost exact event, but you will have 10 different responses. When it comes to politics is similar to religion for a lot of people, because we become so identified to politics. And that can make conversations about politics painful for a lot of people. The problem is, and I'm taking my cue here from Marianne Williamson, she's a healer. She's done a lot of work in the healing field, but actually ran for president last election, almost in a way to make a statement that each individual must become engaged because these policies impact us at the little minute, I'm in my home level. So tonight we're talking about the experience that I'm watching unfold on social media of our former ambassador to the United Nations. And I know that you're familiar. I'm re-educating myself to politics in Dominica really right now. But I know you're a lot more familiar with the former ambassador. Can you tell me a little bit about how she even got into the political arena?
Well, I mean, as it relates to how she got into the political arena, I'm not sure. I don't remember very clearly. All I can tell you, as far back as I can remember, is I remember she ran for election for the United Workers' Party, which is the current opposition party in Dominica.
Yeah.
She won that election when she ran, and when the Rosie Douglas deceased, led the Labour Party to, I think, 10 states, if my memory serves me right. And I think there was one seat with the Freedom Party. I remember vaguely. Anyway, so she was into politics on the opposition side. And at the request and I guess coercion of Rosie Douglas and those who worked with her, she crossed the floor, like we like to say in Dominica. She crossed the floor and became a member of the government. I remember very clearly she was vilified by the public in Dominica, especially those who were supportive of the United Workers' Party. I remember even some laborites had a lot of negative things to say about her because they felt that she shouldn't be trusted. There were a lot of things said, a lot of things, what is it she wants and so on. I remember the day she took the decision and she was going to sit across from the opposition party in Parliament. There had to be a lot of security outside Parliament because people came down. We want our vote back. Give us our vote back. There were demonstrations. It got nasty. I mean, the police were confronted outside Parliament. This thing was crazy. I remember that very vividly. But she stuck her guns to her guns, and she stayed on. Now, interestingly, when she ran the next time on the Labour Party ticket, I remember the election was too close to calling Castlebrooks. And, when you have those recounts, you have teams from both sides going to the constituency for the recount the following day. And I remember I was one of those up there. And I can tell you who were the lawyers and who were the agents and everything. And as a matter of fact, I can tell you that I was the one, together with a DBS reporter, who broke the news as it relates to what the result of the recount was. And she won. She won by, I think, by one vote.
What?
Yeah, on the recount. And I remember she, together with another Bannis lady, who was a very close friend, broke down and started crying, because she, I understood why she cried, because she had been through so much. She had been called so many, and people said she could never win the seat again, whether she had run for UWP or, but she worked hard. Worked hard. She dug her heels in because she realized the task was going to be very difficult because she had crossed the floor and now she was running on another party's ticket.
Yeah.
And
when you say she worked hard, what do you mean?
Say again?
When you say she worked hard.
Well, she worked hard politically on the ground to bring some of the supporters that voted for her when she ran for the opposition across with her. Gotcha. So she did a lot of work on the ground. She did to have crossed the floor and brought the seat over to Labour is not an easy thing. We saw it tried in Roseau, and it didn't work. Joseph Isaac ran Roseau Central and won for UWP, and he ran Roseau North for Labour Party and lost.
Got you.
You understand? So I believe that she did a tremendous job on the ground to have convinced some people, listen, we go in the right way. Come with me. And it was close. But she won, and people were, I don't remember there were court actions and everything. But anyway, the dust settled, and she was a member of the Labour Party, and was into this whole thing. And I eventually people felt, she had done a good thing for the Labour Party and that kind of thing, and so on and so forth.
So I have a thought before you continue about just the idea of crossing the floor, and as you described the people's response, I felt pain. I felt pain and discomfort. I'm actually also reading many people's posts on social media where they're still sounding very hurt. It almost feels like a betrayal based on what they were saying. What do you think about the idea of crossing the floor? Is there a way to do this in a different way so that people are not just essentially,
My take on that is, I've always had an issue with people just deciding, well, I'm going to the other side. There's nothing wrong in wanting to go, you want to go to the other side. You feel you probably can do better. And again, you see, it gives rise to another thing again, because we have a thing in Dominica's politics where if you are not in the party that forms a majority, your constituency tends to get neglected.
More political trauma.
And that has happened. Yeah, and that has happened over decades. One may say in the last regime, it may not have been so acute, but that doesn't mean it has been totally eradicated. But so you may feel, well, you win, and for you to get what you want for your constituency, you have to be on the government side. Well, if that is the case, you might as well have one party and no other parties. But to answer your question directly, if you are at the point, and that's just my personal view, if you're at the point where you feel that you need to cross the floor or you need to join the majority so as to ensure you get what you want for your people, you need to go back to the people first. You need to go back to the people and say, listen, I need to have a meeting with you guys. We need to talk. This is what I'm thinking, but I need to hear from you what you want. What you want. And before you just jump and go. I believe that's just my personal take on that whole thing.
I agree with you on that one.
Yes. So I don't have an issue with wanting to cross the floor because that may be the right thing to do for you to get what you want. And that is another subject on itself, like I said, because you probably shouldn't have to come to that point.
Right.
If you won the election and you are on the opposition, once you want to make representation in parliament for your people, and these are legitimate needs of the constituency, I see no reason why the constituency should not get what it rightfully deserves. But we know that is not how it operates, and I think that is where that has initiated that kind of thinking about wanting to cross the floor. Or other people will go further and say greed. Some people feel by doing that for them, and therefore for them to get what they want for them, they have to cross the floor. People have their different thinking as to why they think people do that. Right. But I'm thinking if you're really doing it because you genuinely want to help your people, there's nothing wrong in thinking, well, you know what, with the current state of our politics, I need to do that. But let me speak to my people first. Let me get the green light from them. So I could understand why a lot of people were agitated, why people felt that, people see people crooking them. I mean, it happened with Julius Timothy. Right, it happened with Julius Timothy, and who
was the representative for
Roseau North. And see what happened. It happened with him. I think when he crossed, he won the subsequent election, but the election after that, he lost, running for Labour Party. And if we look, I think there may be a few other situations way back when it happened. I think there was one guy. Cassie Bruce has a record of that. I think that's not the first Cassie Bruce Pal rep who did that, who crossed the floor. I don't remember the name, but I don't know if it's Oliver Sanderson. I'm not sure, but I remember there was a candidate who crossed the floor. So we've had a few situations where that has happened.
Cassie Bruce, pay attention. So I'm big on trends, right? And I look for patterns. So Cassie Bruce, what is going on in Cassie Bruce? I wonder. But
it has happened. It's not the first time it has happened. And like I said, again, with the kind of political vibe that's being engendered in our country today, you can well understand why people want feel boy for them to get what they have to get. They go, but I also admire the people who choose to decide, listen, I'm in the opposition. I went to the people on a particular ticket. They voted me on that ticket, and I'm staying there. And I will go to the parliament and ask for what I want and let the people hear that I'm making representation on their behalf. So I just think that thing about if you didn't vote for me, then you're not getting anything should change. And listen, the mom who we love so much publicly stated that. She said, "Don't blame me if my eyes fall on those who voted for me." I think that was in the last term. Right. So it has been there before her. It was there during her time. It was there after her time, and it continues today to a certain extent. Well,
I wonder what the people can ask for to make a shift in that, because I mean, is it something where every constituency just should automatically have a certain amount, of funds?
Well, the current government started the process of constituency allowance. So they give each pal a certain amount of money to spend. But that is again requires another program, because that in itself has its issues. It has its issues in terms of accountability, whether those funds are being used for the purposes for which it was meant, and all of that. And I don't want to delve into that because it requires a whole nother discussion, or can form part of another discussion. Yeah. But there's a lot, and that all these things are offshoots of the messy political vibe. I can't find a better word to replace vibe, but the messy political culture that is brewing its head, that has been brewing its head in Dominica for a while. Yeah. And so it creates that kind of thing, where people feel that is what they have to do, crossing the floor, and people call them crook and betrayer, they betray them and all that kind of thing.
Very painful, very painful stuff.
Yeah, I can well imagine.
Painful stuff. Yes, yeah. This is the stuff. This is the stuff that people come to therapists to heal from. Like that kind of level. Your vote is precious, and to have it just be, it's almost essentially as if you're going against my will. If we collectively as a constituency say we want you, but based on these policies that you were telling us, hey, this is what if you get in, this is what you're going to do. And to have that cross. So that seems like an opening for reconciliation with many people.
Yeah. So pretty much, so that is how I know she became, a member, eventually a member of the Labour Party, and became a minister. As a matter of fact, at one point, she was my minister when I took over the Government Information Service. Well, it's now called the Corporate Communications Department, but then Government Information Service. She was minister of that department one time, and she was my minister. I was accountable to her, and we have developed a very good friendship and working relationship.
Yeah.
That we had.
Well, let's come to the matter at hand, and I'm going to, again, lean on you to help me understand more.
Well, I don't know if I can bear your weight, but I'll try.
Exactly, right? Like, you'll do the best you can, because on that, I've read the letters. So I've read the letters, but I'm hoping that you can give a clearer picture of what exactly is going on. When did this start? What I know is that on or about, say, the second week of March, a situation reared its head to where the ambassador, the story that was breaking was that the ambassador had signed official
diplomatic
relations with Syria, and there was a huge response. There's a very loud negative response. And we are continuing to see the fallout of that. Okay, so in March I was in the throes of grief recovery, so my eyes were halfway open, and so that's why my ear caught it. But I couldn't devote much time to understanding and processing that. So can you tell me a little bit more, as far as as to your best, to the best way that you understand it?
So one of the things I will try to stay away from is trying to give the impression that I have details on where it all started and all the
Right,
nitty-gritties. I am
right.
privy to some information, and I know of some operations because I have been inside there for a while. But we're having a conversation. First of all, let me start. Let me do two things quickly.
Quickly, go ahead.
Yeah, today's the 17th. Yes. 2 days,
18th.
18th. Really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So tomorrow, really, we would be remembering, recognizing 5 years of Maria.
Today, I think.
Is it today or
Yeah, I
tomorrow?
think today. Today is
Today,
the
actually,
18th.
today,
Today
18th.
is 5 years.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I just wanted to stop and really just like
Yeah.
recognize that the country has really come a long way. We've been through a lot, and people who suffered loss, and I just want to let them know that there's always life still, and we need to continue to live, and those who've passed on would want them to live and do what they have to do. So I just wanted to recognize that.
Yes.
Right. Now, the other thing is people will hear us in a discussion like that, and people will listen, and some people, I know some people will think that I, in particular, going to come to the
Right.
defense of Loreen and all of that. And I don't want to come. I'm no lawyer, so I'm not going to come to. I think Loreen has all the resources at her disposal to defend herself and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So let me start by saying, for all that I know as it relates to that situation, let us make it clear. I don't think Loreen is without culpability. I don't think she's without responsibility in the whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I believe that you are ambassador, and her title specifically gives her, from what I understand, gives her that authority to be able to have discussions on behalf of the government.
Mm-hmm.
That it gives her authority to have discussions on hold discussions on behalf of the government.
Right.
So that I believe holding discussions on behalf of the government without even saying what I'm going to, or should I talk to country X or country Z or Y, is clear. She could
Yeah.
talk to any country. When it comes to taking decisions, while she has that leeway and as a senior diplomat, everything still has to be in black and white, authorized by the leadership of the country,
Mm-hmm.
saying, yeah, okay, you've held discussion, we're satisfied with the discussion, go ahead and sign. So let me say here, if Loreen would have gone on and taken any decision, not just this one, but any decision without getting the green light or the black and white light, if you want to say that, to proceed with final decisions, then she would have questions to answer. I also think, and I believe, that if Loreen took that decision, I don't think Loreen would have taken the decision to sign diplomatic relations with Syria without having some solid backing. Now,
And you're saying that's your opinion?
that's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what I'm understanding, the information that I have gathered, that while public utterances may have given the impression that she acted without authority, that may not have been so.
Mm.
That may not have been so. Now, the existence of tangible or factual information to back that up rests with Loreen. And I don't want to say much on that, because if there's a legal matter pending, that has all those things will come into the equation.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I know, Loreen would not have made a decision or taken a decision like that without knowing that she had solid backing. No. Here's where I say again that Loreen is not without culpability, and that she shouldn't, some of the blame belongs to her.
Mm-hmm.
I am thinking, if I am representing the government in any situation, and I'm given the green light to go ahead and do certain things, but my knowledge of international affairs would lead me to believe that the person, country, organization, or institution in question that I'm supposed to be establishing some sort of relation with is questionable, I would advise my government, listen, do we really want to do that? No.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to wait while we have taken a decision that it's the right thing to do? Is the timing right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't we want to wait because there are some concerns about this institution? We're hearing that this institution may be involved in bankruptcy. We're hearing that this organization may have been involved in smuggling, human smuggling. We're hearing that this country is involved in atrocities that involves the killing of its people for speaking up and human rights issues and so on. So, you know, I would ask those questions. I'd raise those questions before, even if I was given the green light. I would say, well, yes, I'm told to do that, go ahead and do it. But because I'm supposed to provide the government advice, I would look at all the things in question about this situation and ask. So that is the part where I think I know I'm safe in saying that I believe that decision didn't just come about flippantly. Now, I'll tell you this, and I know that for a fact, but I'm going to tell you, that discussion did not even start with Loreen. The discussion to sign diplomatic relations with Syria did not even start with Loreen.
So okay, so are you suggesting that, so from what we're understanding, from what the public is understanding, that in her capacity as the ambassador, she made that choice alone?
That is the impression that is being given, that she made that choice on her own, all by herself.
But what you're saying is, even though she's got that, what's it called, plenitentiary? There's plenitor something. There's a nice, pretty word, meaning that she could, if necessary, make that sort of decision without.
And here's what, and here's what with this particular situation. Precedence.
Mm-hmm.
I have factual information as it relates to this with precedence in situations like this one. That
meaning
even if she had done that on her, this particular one on her own,
mm-hmm.
that it would not have been the first time that she had signed diplomatic relations
on her own.
On her own.
Okay.
Now, whether that was the right thing to do or not is another question.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the fact that she had done it already,
mm-hmm.
and now she's been thrown under the bus for
mm-hmm.
doing this one,
mm-hmm.
raises questions as to why this decision.
Why this one?
Why
but
this
I think
one?
I also hear you saying that you were saying, are you saying you have information that in this instance she was not acting on her own?
Yes, I have that information.
Okay.
That she didn't act on her own.
Okay.
She didn't act on her own. She didn't act without the knowledge and blessings of those who would have been expected to have given the blessings.
Okay.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I will stay away from quoting times and any kind of document because I don't want to tamper with anybody's case if there's going to be a legal issue.
And that's not what I'm trying to do.
Right, exactly.
Either. Yeah.
You see, so, and I'm saying what I'm saying in response to the question that you're asking me, because I think that will lay the platform for what we want to talk about in the next few minutes. And that is the kind of trauma that things like that brings on, not just,
you know what it is,
Loreen, but the country on a whole.
What it seems to me is like, okay, so it helps so much if everybody's clear about what we're doing. I'm doing this and you're doing that. These are my expectations, right? These are not my expectations. And so we cut down on a lot of the potential damage or hurt, you know.
So let me just kind of glue two pieces here. Mm-hmm. So the fact that I have said that I have information that she didn't act on her own gives rise to one question. Why? And also I said that she had taken decisions on behalf of the country before.
In the past.
In terms of signing, in terms of signing diplomatic relations. And we heard no hoorah.
Right.
Nothing. So the question as to why no is a big question. But there's an additionally big question. Now that she's been thrown to the wolves as a result of this unique decision, why treat her like that?
Why? That was hard.
I know you will take me there. So, but I just thought I would drop that question.
Yeah, that was my trigger. Like that I was like, oh, because the response to that letter was essentially like a shutout. It felt like you have no oxygen here. I'm going to snuff this out. I have no part in this. We have no part in this. We have.
And are you talking about the response from the Prime Minister?
From the Prime Minister, from the government to her, was that we have no idea what you're talking about, and we will not entertain any of your thoughts, your requests. In addition to her essentially saying that I feel as if I've been defamed. You know, I fell on the sword is what it sounded like. I took responsibility for this action, but some of the responses have been defamatory towards my character and towards my ability, maybe even her employability in the future. Mm-hmm. You know, when you talk about trauma, this is far-reaching. This is potentially, because she's I don't know her personally, but clearly she's a very serious, strong, qualified woman for her to have been appointed to that position. Very skilled person to have been appointed in that position. And so now you have to think about, based on the letter and based on her current circumstances, well, she's saying, well, how am I going to get, this is potentially impacting my ability to work in the future and my reputation on the world stage. It's very traumatic, potentially.
So you're so right. Let me backtrack just a bit. You spoke about the response. Now, I read the letter of Loreen to the Prime Minister. And I personally felt, while she probably, there's a part in it that I felt that didn't belong in the letter. But I understood why she put it in there. I know she would have sought legal advice. I'm no lawyer, I'm far from that. But I just think my observation, the part that she spoke about how she formed the government, I believe didn't belong in there. Let's not politicize your issue. And if you didn't form the government was formed. I mean, Rosie asked you to strengthen the government numbers. So the government was formed. So I don't think that she should take credit for that. I don't think so. I don't think, personally, I don't think that belongs. But I understand putting it in there would lend itself to say, listen, I was grateful. Where is your gratitude back to me? I assisted your organization. But I understand. Now, as it relates to the response, I'm telling you, that response, and that's my personal opinion, smelled something of arrogance. The tone was anger.
Mm.
That response from the Prime Minister. Arrogant, like, who are you to even seek to say that we defamed you? Who are you to even write to me? You know?
Mm.
And the end where, you know, is like, I wouldn't even entertain anything. It's like, you know, listen, shut up, man. You know, you're not even worth saying anything. I felt that in itself said a lot. That particular letter, the tone spoke volumes of the type of what is existing in a system where people should be able to say, listen, you hurt me, man.
Yeah.
You hurt me.
Yeah.
And I need to be able to tell you hurt me. No, just before I love you back in, because you're the moderator and I don't want to, you know, go on, you know.
Go ahead. I mean, talk. I'll interrupt you when I need to.
But here's what. Why, the other question brings to mind is, why did it even have to get to that point, to the point where she had to write? Why?
So, okay.
Why?
So this is where I'll interrupt, because I'm looking at it again from, you know, like you're saying, we can intervene at many points during a sequence of events before it gets to be that,
of course,
frozen.
And again, looking at the situation and who we're dealing with. I mean, let me. You are the professional here, so you will guide me. But you have a family. You have a family, and for some reason, you guys fell out.
Yeah.
You and one of your siblings or somebody fell out, right? And both of you laying blame. You did that wrong, and I saying you did that wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If the objective is for me to get over on you, then I can see where that fighting is never going to, we're never going to find some common ground. But if there is a common understanding that, you know what, we may have both acted wrongly and we both hurt each other. However, in the interest of both of us moving forward, let us decide amicably how we solve it. I may have to give in somewhere, you may have to give in somewhere. Now, let me add here, my friend. Loreen's letter, to be fair to her, kind of gave me the impression that is where she was heading.
It's because I felt her emotion. I felt, and you know, so the professional part of me wanted to say, no, don't share your emotions so much. But then it gave me insight into the fact that this was a connection. So, you know, we had a connection, and I'm opening part of my heart again in the letter. But
the response didn't seem to see it like that. The response saw it like, who are you anyway?
Somebody called it mash heard around the world.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And they were correct. The response wasn't as understanding, or was not willing to accept, listen, boy, one of my family seemed to have been hurt by some of my actions. Let me reach out to them and see how we can best solve that before that thing spills over. Mm-hmm. You understand? Mm-hmm. And that is where I used the word arrogance. I felt there was, well, listen, man, I'm the bigger brother. I'm the first in the family. So, like, really, man, listen, you know, shut up and get out. And I will go down that road because I feel with whatever culpability Loreen would have had, and for all those who may not like her or may not have liked her previous actions as it relates to crossing the floor and being so vocally supportive of the current government and prime minister, when it comes to the human aspect of things, when it comes to your actions affecting people adversely, if there is one organization that must be very mindful of that, because they are there to represent people, is the government. And in this case, I do not feel that the government, subsequent to its actions, looked out for her. And I have information that one of the reasons why she got to that point is because she went to Dominica to fight for her gratuity so she couldn't get it. And up to now, she has not received it. And it's not because there is no money. It is because there are machinations in the government systems, aided and abetted by top public officers, to squeeze her and deny her of it.
What do you think is the motivation for that?
Now, one may say that the contract broke, and there may be conditions that if you fell out and your contract, you had to be resigned or you had to leave your post because it was deemed that you had performed outside your parameters and all those kind of things, words, those fancy words, then you'd be denied that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, that may be so. But we're talking about somebody who I know was loyal to the bone. To the bone. I know. And she demonstrated it from the time she crossed the floor. At that time, it may not have been loyalty to the Labour Party.
Right.
It may have been she figuring out.
Well, might have been personal loyalty. It might have been like, this is a better situation for me.
It may have been absolutely. That may well be so. But proved over the years that her loyalty was to the party, the governing party, and the leader.
Yeah.
And I say leader, not even leadership, the leader. And I am thinking, if you feel that Loreen would have erred in her decision, judgment, that's what I'm looking for. And like you said in your public statement, you asked her to resign and accepted her resignation. Like has been done for other people in the past, you would overlook certain things and say, listen, she has a family. That would have halted her life in a way that she didn't expect. We need to do something to prevent her from coming to that screaming halt because she was a lawyer. And listen, even if you are prime minister or minister or president today of the Commonwealth of Dominica, you're not perfect. You can make errors too. And you make errors all the time. And people forgive you. People forget it. People say, oh, that was just a glitch. You have had to come to the public and apologize for bad decisions. The public forgave you. When they could have said, we want you out. We want you out. So it doesn't mean your leadership has been perfect. Without blemish. Yet people have looked beyond, if I should use it, look beyond your fault. So why isn't Loreen given that same treatment?
I want you to answer the question then. Why isn't she? Why do you think she's being like so?
Well, let me tell you what I think based on what I know.
Yeah.
Okay? I believe there are people sitting in strategic positions in the public service of Dominica, the government system, who does not like Loreen. They have their long-standing feud, and they are in positions where they can stifle any benefit that would come to her, and it is being aided and abetted by those who can override it. That is my belief. And it is sad, and I feel bad for her. I feel bad for her. And let me tell you, I've not spoken to Loreen since that happened. We have not been on speaking terms for a while in the sense that we've been apart. We've not been talking. I replaced her in St. Thomas. So we used to talk a lot then. We haven't. And so that is, I'm not coming here to plead a case for Loreen. She happens to be the person in the situation now. So
right, that's the thing.
But she's human. She's a
representative, though. She's representative of, we have like this Powerball in Dominica, but Bob Kamaradu, Puidife, you have to.
And I will tell you, I will touch on that a little later on. So she could not come from being fit enough, whether qualified or ready enough.
Right.
Whether qualified or ready enough to have given the position for so many years, to have suddenly become such a bad person that you are allowing people in the system who have inherent hatred towards her to stifle her and affect her like that. It cannot be right.
So she's all alone.
Yeah, and I go further to say that what is happening to Loreen is inherent in the current system of governance in Dominica.
So it's become toxic then?
Yes. And I say that without fear of intimidation or contradiction. And I expect people to say it's not true. But I have evidence of it. And that should not be right. And it's not to say Loreen should be treated with any special treatment. You understand? Because anybody you go to court, my friend, you are charged with an offense. You plead your case before the magistrate. Listen, I'm a first offender. I made a mistake. You know, it's not. I never accustomed of driving drunk, but I went to a party.
But what you're saying is she didn't even make a mistake. You're saying from your information, she did not make a mistake.
The only mistake I think she would have made is judgment, in the sense that timing. While you may have had the green light, couldn't you have said, boy, that's not the right time to sign diplomatic relations with this particular country? Let me ask the government to hold back on it, because the whole political atmosphere globally does not allow us to go unscathed signing that thing. So I'm not saying Loreen should be treated with any special glove, because I was saying people go to court and they plead a case. They committed the offense, you know. They say, magistrate, I am guilty, with an explanation. And the judge says, I understand you. I feel you. You know what? You made an error. And that offense is punishable by 20 years in jail. But you know what? I'll put you on probation for the next 15 years. So if you commit a similar offense. We had a big human cry in Dominica recently, where a guy, I don't know where he's from, is one of the northeastern communities, was charged for rape. What happened to him? Wasn't he given a suspended sentence? No. We go back and forth whether he should. But the judge listened to the mitigating circumstances and took into consideration certain facts. Now, in the court of public opinion, we felt maybe he should have gone to jail. That's a different thing. But the point here is, the moral here is, the judge understood certain things and gave him a suspended sentence. In the court of law, you're telling me in a situation where a woman has demonstrated a loyalty to you as a leader and to the government, who used to defend Roosevelt Skerrit and the Dominica Labour Party and the government more in the media.
I've seen a lot of that.
After me.
Yeah.
Who used to do it more? From all angles.
Yeah.
And today you're telling me that her error is so grave that she should be treated like that?
Like there's no room for redemption.
And if her error is that grave and treated as such, then the errors that you are making and have made should be treated with the same disdain by the people of Dominica. It is not right. You don't treat a human being like that. You do, and you know, you are fully aware of the impact of that decision. Okay, fine. Or you ask her to resign, she resign. Give the woman some money. Give her gratuity.
She's got to live. At least give her what belongs to her. At least give her what belongs to her. Give her
the gratuity. Let her go on with her life. Because like you rightly said earlier, her employability comes into question. Because when a government, as a leader of a country, tells the world that you took a decision that was not authorized, especially a Peisala Onuyela, Peisala, tout mon kaigade comes to the your leader say me I can trust you, especially with that country there. So the damage is already done. The best you can do is to give her the little change you have for her. Right. A little rum shop, she's gonna open a little barbecue at the back. Let her do it for continuous. She has a family, she has a husband, she has children, she has bills. So it is insensitive, and if you ask me, calculatedly malicious for them to be doing that to her.
And you say them because, as you say, it feels like it's not just one.
No.
Like there are other people facilitating.
Well, for you, it's a feeling. For me, I know.
For you, you know. Do you think this is a mode of operation of the party now? Because you say you think
you're always smarter. Since I know you, little girl, you're smart, and you have continued to ask smart questions.
And flattery will get you everywhere.
But anyway, I'm not flattering you. Let me say it in English because people don't know, but I know you've always been a very brilliant young lady. So you're asking brilliant questions. And the answer is yes. It is the MO. If you do not show loyalty without how do I say, unbroken, unrelenting loyalty, meaning length of time, say it the way I want or not, or deba. There are people, let me tell you something, my friend. There are people currently serving in this government who are expressing the very concerns I'm expressing covertly, silently. There are people in the cabinet of Dominica who are expressing those concerns. They cannot say it publicly. Because if they express their concern, and publicly doesn't mean they got come on radio. They cannot even sit down in a cabinet meeting and say, I do not agree with the decision that is being taken to treat her the way they treat.
Well, you see,
they have to go with the flow.
Well,
I know that for a fact.
That's
I
so
know that. They're either talking to me or they're talking to people close to me.
But that's so problematic. That's so problematic because a good leader needs dissent. You need clear thinking people to say, hey, I see where you want to go with this, but these are my thoughts. And they might not line up. They might not line up. You know, you hire other people around you to check you. They might have more experience in a certain area and they might be able to tell you, no, this is not the best course of action. So this sounds like old boy over here where we would say that's kind of cult-like behavior when people start actually following that kind of system, because I keep talking about the bi-directionality of relationships. Yes, your supervisor, your boss, your leader, you have respect for them, but you can't watch them making a choice that is not in everybody's best interest and not say, I see where you might want to do this, but that is, that's not going to work. I disagree. I'm not sure who, that's not serving the whole of the country.
You said it right. And this is what that has been and continues to be cultured.
But how does that make sense though? Like,
but you see,
logically, how does that make sense anyway?
It probably doesn't make sense, but just that tells you how far down the thinking of our people have come. We've been debased to believe and to think that is the way it's supposed to be.
So actually, I can understand it psychologically, because if we're using Ms. Bannis as an example where you're afraid that you might get snuffed out like this, yeah? So fear, F-E-A-R, is, fear is a good thing because it clues us in that, hey, I might need to run, I might need to escape. It's a way for me to kind of assess my environment. But when you have chronic fear, when you're constantly on alert that I have to do the quote unquote right thing, that depresses your ability to think. People go into these childlike stress response styles where they freeze, they fawn. I hear a lot of fawning. Fawning is where whatever you say, I'm okay with it. Whatever you say, you're the best. That's a fawn response so that you don't fight, which for me is a much more efficient. Feel it, face it, fight. I prefer fighting, because at least you got a chance, as opposed to running away, pretending it's not happening, or fawning, which is like everything you say is correct. But everything you say can never be correct. The thing about it is, though, on the outside looking in, you might say, well, this person is silly. Why are they doing this? But it's a brain response where the threat of backlash, which is what that person was trying to tell me via text, where she said, they're going to say you're a negative person. They're going to talk bad about you. And for us back home, if one person talks bad about us, I think we feel very hurt by it. I mean, I don't, but that's still a thing for many people. But if you have to, if what you're facing is potential ostracization, like what is happening with the former ambassador, I can see how pride can get in the way, where you're afraid of your future, your family's future. Hey, I'm suddenly on the outs. It's very potentially painful.
How could I even say anything better than what you just said? And I really hope the people listening can grasp that. Let me tell you, we've sold in Dominica our political birthright for a muzzle of lentils. That's what is going on. That lang no shene. While we Bob Marley say, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, and Cassava have a song that speaks about the triangular slave trade and how we were chained, and we say today we independent. We economically, I'm not sure if we economically independent, but we politically independent, and we have a president, and we can vote, and we don't have the queen as our head of state, and whatever. We are politically tied, chained. That is what is happening in Dominica. And the country is facing a period of political division, my friend, where if I say that I do not support a political party on a matter of principle, and that political party is in office, that political party and the people who support them will look to destroy me at all costs, will forget I'm a Dominican like them.
That's my biggest thing.
They will forget that we grew up in the same community, that we went to the same school, that we rode on the same bus, we bathe in the same river, in the same sea, we eat the same dry coconut together, we speak the same Creole together, we go to the same Creole festival, we go in the same bank, we go in the same hospital, we walk through Roseland, we meet each other on the sidewalk, we buy the same bread, same thing. But it is something that has been cultured in Dominica, and I will say that in our current political dispensation, it seemed to have taken even more root. And it is sad. It is sad that even people, and that is why some people who have the fortitude and the inner resolve will speak no matter what happened to them.
Yeah.
Some people will wait until they're free enough to speak, like me, who feel that their mind and their spirit is in a better place. And there are those who know if they speak, they will be in trouble, so they choose to stay there and die in silence.
But that is like de facto dictatorship, though. Totalitarianism by default. What you're describing to me is totalitarianism by default.
It is encapsulated by likability, by popularity, by charisma, by because so you have somebody giving you a lollipop, and you're sucking on a lollipop, not realizing the sour part of the lollipop is inside, and before you know it, ujavale, you suck that thing, the sweetness take over you, that you don't realize the poison is inside. My point is, why should we be at a point in our development in Dominica where people should be afraid to speak their mind without fear of being victimized? I shared with you when I published the first article that I sent out, I got text messages, people telling me, speak for us, please, because we know if we speak and they find out is we saying that we don't like what they're doing, we will get victimized. People with their little shop, people with their little bar, people with, have their little children going to school, you know? It's sad. And you may ask me, how does that equate to the situation? And that you coined it political trauma. And you may ask me, how does that equate to Loreen's situation? Mm-hmm. Yes, she may have heard. Now, I am being told that if you go back to the Prime Minister's address, you will hear where he said she did nothing wrong except bad judgment. Mm. So if she did nothing wrong, and if it was just a lapse in judgment, why are you treating her like that? Why are you doing that to her? Mm-hmm. And by extension, her family, her children, her husband.
Well, so pause for a second here, Mervin, because I guess this is for all of us, right? When you imagine your grandparents, your parents, they would say, you don't listen to words, you have to watch actions, really. Mm-hmm. You have to watch actions to make a decision on whether or not you say yes or no. So and we love each other. We love our people, but nobody's perfect. And this right here, to me, it doesn't speak well of the humanity piece. It doesn't speak well. It says if everybody else be on the lookout, is what it says to me.
That's right.
That's what it says to me.
That's right.
Because if it can happen to her, it can happen to you. The thing is, a lot back to fear. Like fear is such a chronic fear, right? Where you're constantly on guard. You keep, yeah, you just, some people just trying to keep their heads down, like you're saying, to avoid incoming, you know? But then what happens to the country, though, with that kind of posture?
That's a very, very, very interesting insight. That's a very interesting thing. Before I comment on it, let me tell you something. I can tell you safely and confidently, there are ministers in today's cabinet in Dominica who have felt the wrath of those kinds of decisions. And they're fearful. They got beaten once.
Yeah.
But, feel like, okay, and believe things were different and got beaten again. And today, they're scared. So when you ask me whether it is an MO or modus operandi, and I say yes, emphatically. Now, ask me the question again. Make the same. I think I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. I was too caught up into what you were saying.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I should have answered that,
Yes.
but it will come.
That's all right. What I do want to ask you is, and what I do want to point out is, with political trauma, like, you have many one and dones, where somebody might say, oh, they shut my business down, or they stifled my ability to get a license so that I could run my business. That is traumatic, right? But it's kind of like a one and done. It seems like a one and done, but it's an ongoing thing, because if I lose my license to do my business, or if I lose my reputation to do my business, that means I cannot generate my income. I can't work at the level that I'm used to working. So now my family struggles. And if I have kids, that means my kids may not be able to do extracurricular activities. That means my kids may not be able to go to the school I really want to send them to. That means my grandkids and my great grandkids, who could have been learning at a certain level, to again be able to pour into the country, cannot, because I am being stifled. So the thing is, this is sequential and it's ongoing, and you never know where it ends.
That's right.
There's a start, but
That's right.
where does it? How does it end, and where does it end?
Well, I mean, when we talk about end, see situations like these where you have a sort of cultured behavior pattern, or a modus operandi that has taken root.
Yeah.
We cannot see change as any one particular event or activity. You understand? This is not this political trauma, this traumatic situation that seemed to be affecting not just Loreen and her family,
right,
but the country, because right now, and as a result of it, our country's image has taken another black eye.
Another hit.
Because there has been discussion in the global sphere about that. It's different from other traumatic situations. And you would better guide me on that. In any traumatic situation, you need a series, you need a process. So much more. This one that has political implications for the country.
For many people.
Right. It has implications for so many people. And if even those who have not been directly affected by it may be wondering, so you mean to tell me, with all my loyalty, if I make a mistake, that is what will happen to me and my family? That I will be thrown to the wolves like I was never part of the process? Just imagine a young person getting into the public service. They are the sole breadwinner of the family, the only person to have gone to university in the family. So granny, grandpa, grandaunt, everybody relying on them to bring a little change to them. And the person made one error.
Right.
Whether they support the party or not, and in the event whether they support the party, is worse. What could happen to them? My mind, it takes me back to a situation that occurred in Melville Hall or Douglas Childs Airport with a young man from Marigot. And I remember when I expressed my concerns about how he was treated, people told me, but you're not supporting the party, man. You
see, so that's the gaslighting, and that's the
understand?
to
Because I
make you shut
felt,
up. Yeah.
I remember this young man literally crying about him having to take care of his grandparents and so on. And he's prepared to do whatever it is to show that, you know, he was sorry for the error he made. He was fired.
What was the error, though? Was it like a real?
Well, boy,
Was it like an? You know, I have a thing: illegal, immoral, unethical. Was it any of those?
Some people say it was illegal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was unethical. I don't see immorality. I just think some people think it was illegal. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, but I don't know if you remember the situation where this guy, it was said, alleged that the guy allowed the leader of the opposition to go through with crabs, or crab back or whatever.
Right.
And the guy lost his job. He lost his job over that. No, I remember they said somebody, whether his grandmother, his grandfather had been amputated, and he was the sole breadwinner.
And that was not considered.
He was fired. Now, I am not saying here that people should go and break the law and expect for them to walk free. But there are situations and circumstances where you have to look beyond what is before you and look at the impact of your decisions. You understand me? And that is why I go back to the Loreen situation. So I am saying, if situations like this occur and that decision is taken, imagine somebody comes into the system, makes a mistake, and it is known that you don't support the government or the party in government. Yeah. What may happen to you?
Well, the thing is, I've heard stories. I've been hearing stories.
But of course,
really,
there are a lot of situations
traumatic, and they're so consequential, and they're impacting many people, not just the person who was attacked or identified to receive the negative treatment.
No, I expect to get some blows, because some people will say, but we'll just have mammy. But the flip side of that, my friend, the flip side of that is there are known situations where people have done wrong blatantly and have been allowed to get away.
Right.
There have been situations where people have been picked up by the police for money issues in the government, whether it's taking Haitians' money and promising them passport, whether it's all kind of situations. People have been working in certain sensitive areas and have misappropriated funds, and that have been swept under the carpet, and they've been allowed to function as usual, because if you do anything, it's going to affect them and their family adversely. So why is it being meted out to one set? And that is the problem I have with what is going on in the country. Because this is a government that touted itself on doing things right, where everybody will have a rightful stake in the country. That is not to say when you break the law, you shouldn't be fair. But I am saying when the humanitarian aspect of it comes into play and you think about it, why is it only fit and good for one set? Why are you treating Loreen like that? Fine, you said she didn't make enemies, she didn't do anything wrong, but there was a lapse in judgment. You said you asked her to resign. You accepted her resignation. Fine. You went further to say you asked her to take all her vacation. So you didn't even tell her leave right away. Take your vacation. So I am saying, what is the issue with the gratuity? Because there are people who have had to live on similar circumstances and got the gratuity, and I know. I know that for a fact. So why leave the woman languishing in the sun to dry up?
You know, wait, I think in one of the letters, or in that letter from Ms. Bannis, there was something about the permanent secretary. That name featured prominently in the letters. There seemed to be many questions too about that, whomever is in that position, and it sounded like there might be a personal something happening that is not being. And it's not being addressed. I'm telling you, you have,
Yes. And I say yes emphatically. There are people in the system currently who have had long-running feud with Loreen, And today they are in a position where they can squeeze the process and frustrate her to the point where she has not gotten her gratuity. And that is not right. And it's not only that. What is even worse is there are people who can override the decision.
That they're not.
They're not, and they're deliberately not doing it. And you know what strengthens the fact that I know that? The tone of the response to Loreen's letter. The tone of the response. Because if that letter, just the tone was different, you would have said, you know what, Loreen, wait a while.
Right.
It looked like somebody will listen to you and somebody will, you know. Nothing, not even in the letter where you saw somebody said, well,
I appreciate you.
Not even that. As was discussed between you and I, the government is working on looking at your situation. You don't have to use the word gratuity, looking at your situation, you know, favorably, or you can. You're not making any reference to a conversation that your situation is being reviewed. Nothing like that. It was a letter, a response that said, "Shut up. Shut your mouth. You don't belong."
It was very painful to read.
I say that I will not even give you the dignity of listening to you or responding to you. That is shameful. No matter
so there's
what.
No attempt to even mediate. There's no attempt to negotiate, mediate, nothing. It just read.
I would think if there was an attempt, that Loreen probably would not have written that letter, because at least that would have given us some hope that at least somebody is listening. I mean, like I said, I mean, I don't think Loreen is stupid, or the legal people advising us for her to write a letter like that without exhausting all the means available to her to deal with that thing behind closed doors.
Well, what's the next step? What's the next step, man? Like, what are your solutions? Because the country's in a pickle if that's the way we're running things. That's clear. That's clear, because that's not sustainable in a positive way. It might be working for a few people, but clearly you're telling me even many ministers of government are walking around like this.
Oh, yes.
So that's not good for the whole. We know that. What are your suggestions for next steps? What needs to be done? Well,
and I don't. What I'm going to say is not necessarily trying to find a solution for Loreen's situation, because Loreen has to, if she chooses to go the legal route, like she said, if you don't respond or whatever, that is for her to decide. But these type of situations, one, Dominicans need to be aware of it, and it should not happen in today's democracy in Dominica. It shouldn't be happening. There should be absolutely no fear of expressing how you feel about a situation in Dominica, whether you say you disagree with the decision of the Prime Minister, or you disagree with the decision of the Senior Minister, or you disagree with the decision of any minister. You should not be viewed and deemed as a political adversary or somebody who's not patriotic, and so therefore
that is bordering, I'm telling you, totalitarian style government.
Yeah, you said that.
This is out of order.
Sorry for jumping in. I thought just came back to my mind. I don't want to lose it. When you touched on it earlier on and you asked about solution, I said there is no one solution, no one way, no one-stop shop thing. I have been advocating, and we were talking about the crossing the floor and how people, how you should deal with that, and what do I think about that. I have been advocating for more people to run as independent candidates, because what that does is there will always be political parties, but if we have a few independent candidates, all right. So say, for example, no one party wins the election or wins majority, but we have a few independent candidates. They can lean either way because their interest is their constituency.
It's the constituency.
So they can lean either way. They can say, I don't care who forms the party. I mean, if it's my support that was going to make you get the majority, bear in mind that at any time I can withdraw that and give it to the other side, because I want you to do well.
But then but pause, because it seems like we need people who cannot be bought, or who cannot be reeled in, though.
That's right.
Because there have been several people who have crossed over and again betraying the trust of the people who voted for them.
That's right. So to answer the question, that is one of the things I believe that needs to happen. then people need to be more, they need to be more independent thinkers going into the political arena.
Yeah.
So I'm not blue, I'm not red, I'm not yellow, I'm not green.
I'm Dominica.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this party gets 9, this party gets 9, that's 18. We have 3 more, there are 3 independent. We can decide where we go into from the majority to make sure that and 2 years into the process, we find you off target. We're going to tell you, listen, I'm not affiliated to you. We want to give it look like that we want to give that other side an opportunity to run the affairs of the country.
We need something radical.
So you'll be able to, of course, you'll be able to hold people accountable.
Yeah,
right, that is one.
You need to shake up.
Right, that is one. Secondly, people need to advocate for changes in the law. That if you are out there sent by the people and you do not do it, that they can be recalled before the next end of the term. That we can get a petition for a recall. Once we have 60-70% of the constituency say, a recall, we want to recall you.
Yeah.
You understand me? Because when people know that they cannot sit down there how they want, when they want, and just get away with stuff, they must be on their P's and Q's. There must be more, there will be more transparency and more honesty. You understand? For too long, I said it in one of our last programs, parties have failed Dominica. Political parties have failed Dominica. Yeah. That is why I don't believe in none of those new parties coming up, because you see, nobody is prepared to stand independently. Everybody wants to have, you don't necessarily have to have a group, because the numbers, meaning 5-6 independent numbers, can be a force in itself.
Yeah.
But we have made people believe that when they come with a group and organization and we put them there, say, Lio Caesar, Pakati, you, they in charge. And when you see, when people feel that
they're really in charge.
Their mango tree, they cannot. You see what they do? You see how they treat people, even people who've served them. Now, again, I will say, my friend, people will say, Loreen, this is what she get and so on. You can look at it with your political lens if you want.
Right.
You understand? You can look at it with your political lens if you want and say that. I am saying, purely from a humanitarian standpoint, the impact that thing is having on the woman and the family, it cannot. And if you have a conscience, and if you say like you always say, you're God and you follow God and Christian principles, you cannot treat the woman like that. You should not treat her like that. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
And this is a warning for those ministers who are sitting in the cabinet and they're, I said once on your program, they're caca boiling. Their stomach is growling because they know. I am putting them on blast tonight. I'm putting them on blast because they know who they're talking to. They know they're talking to me. They know they're talking to other people about the fact that they are not happy about the treatment Loreen is. That's a method of treatment to Loreen, and they know what they have faced and are still currently facing. But listen, there is nothing better than knowing you are able to stand up even in the face of adversity and represent the right thing. That is why a lot of people tell me, why are you speaking now, Mervin? Why are you speaking now? I said I have to be in the right place mentally and spiritually. And I thank God that He has given me the backbone and the moral fiber to say what my conscience tells me to say. And not to defame anybody, not to lie about anything, but to feel when people feel. And I know there are a lot of people in Dominica who are feeling, my friend. They're hurting over that kind of thing, but they prepare to, eat it.
But I guess what I want people to hear and take with them is the understanding that the fear of threat is a very powerful thing. And so, as somebody said in the chat, just watching the response to Ms. Bannis is going to actually reverberate with a lot of fear for a lot of people who might, like you're saying, be wanting to disagree or say no. Okay? Sometimes these things appear even bigger in our minds, right? A lot of the people the people, the common people, like that person who texted me and said, "Are you sure?" And I'm telling you, the tone was clearly like, when you're in a bush, like they pull you
Mhm.
behind a bush and say, I
Yeah.
was like, "What are you talking? What are you talking? What are you?" I almost got, not almost, I got irritated with them
Mhm.
because I said, "Who are you talking to? I cannot speak." And whose business? Why would I care that somebody would say I'm talking a certain way, that they disagree with my talking? But that clued me in to let me understand the level of psychological threat. It's psychological threat. It's not physical. It's not as if anybody's hitting them you know, but it's psychological threat. And the fear that comes with that can immobilize you. The terrible thing for the country is that kind of fear that it's chronic, as opposed to, hey, I see something, I should be afraid, I'm jazzed up, I'm ready to run, I'm ready to fight it. That kind of fear that doesn't even have a name, it just feels like it's around. It immobilizes people, takes away their creativity. The country needs their creativity, though, to come up with these brand new awesome ideas, to build, to grow, to do. It's not the government. The government creates the atmosphere, the environment for the individual creativity to shine and flourish.
And I'm
And so
happy.
if we're looking at it in a different way, there's no, the science doesn't support that system as the best way to bring out the best in people.
And I'm happy that I didn't have to share any experiences with you prior to our conversations for you to have gotten the sense that there is something going on that's not right. You had the experience. You simply spoke about the experience of hope at the hospital, and
Yeah.
somebody immediately reached out to you and said, "Hey, be careful, because they're going to taint you, they're going to brand you." And that alone epitomizes what is happening in the country. That person is not in an isolated situation. That person is not an isolated
That's
situation.
what
That is
I'm
what
finding
that is what
out.
is. I'm telling you.
And we
So
have gone
so
too far. We've gone too
yeah,
far with
of
that.
course. So for those people who seem to think that me expressing the things that I'm expressing now, or you sharing that, is because we have a political agenda or something, ask them to talk to people. And let me tell you something, my friend. These sentiments are not being shared as experiences by people who are opposed to the governing party, only. I am telling you, I speak to more people and very interesting people within the Labour Party than many who are silently expressing the
But
concern,
they
but they
must,
fear.
because that doesn't work. That does not feel good for the human
Yeah,
being. They
but they
must.
fear. You use the word, they
Exactly.
fear
Yeah.
saying anything because of what may happen to them.
Well, what I know as the response to that is you speak up and you say, ouch, no, I don't like that. You see, there are way more of the people than a few.
Of course.
There are way more of the people than a few.
But
And
imagine
if we're
if,
making a mistake, and this is a mistake, if we're making a mistake, if we've made a mistake for a long time, I talked about how when you have power like that, we didn't mean to. Nobody, it's not as if the government said, we're going to just be totalitarian. No, the people have continued to vote for them over these years. But by default, you have the same set of people in the systems. Of course, it's going to kind of coagulate around a certain, oh, this is the way we do it. Huh? So the people have to look at that and see, is that the way working for enough of us for us to persist in it? And I'm going to keep saying that. I'm going to keep saying that. And I know that many people started feeling afraid when I started saying that, as if I was committing a sin
I
to
hear you.
say that as an
Hmm.
individual, you have a
Hmm.
responsibility.
My friend,
There's no doubt.
I was about to just strengthen the point you're making.
Yeah.
Can you imagine people called me when I started writing and speaking and tell me, boy, be careful. Them man have contacts. Them man can send people to do this. I say, you mean little Dominica, my Dominica, that I, because I speak, should be fearful of my children and my family being attacked, or even me being attacked? because people or one person have become so untouchable that I cannot speak about something affecting me.
But then do you
And
see
that,
how much of a problem that is?
absolutely,
That
that's
this is
precisely what I'm
what
saying.
people are saying?
Absolutely. You understand me? I mean, you have situations where people, I was speaking to a particular parents whose child's name went up as part of a list of people who were being given scholarships. And a minister said to the parent, boy, I can't tell you much, but you don't support us, so it couldn't be considered. Even if I wanted to speak, I couldn't speak because I would be alone speaking on your behalf. So I just have to go with the flow.
Trauma.
So when you talk about political trauma, these are the kind of things people have to be dealing with. And people will say all kind of things and so on. My friend, I could care less who hate me and who don't like me right now. As far as I'm concerned, these kind of things should not be. You should be free to criticize a government if you want. You don't make threats against people. You're not involved in what we call it, inciting violence or trying to overthrow or get yourself in those things. That you should be free to say, I disagree. I do not like that
As you
decision.
mentioned, inciting violence, I have to say this because it's been on my heart. This year, I've watched at least 3 members of the opposition party be arrested for, I don't know, for weird things. I'll say for weird things.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, 3 people who seem to be
Yeah.
very vocal. One former representative, I don't know if he still is, but was arrested for something that, come on, people, we're sending the avioles home and we're arresting this man for that. Why? What
Now
is he doing?
I don't. You see, this one I will handle it carefully because I have no problem with people protesting. No problem with people taking the street. That happens around the world. Like in the great United States, people walk in the streets around people. But if the police tell you do not cross a line, they tell you do not do that. They said that is breaking the law. And in the view of the police, you broke the law. They have a right to arrest and charge you. You go before it is for the judge and the magistrate to listen and decide whether what you did, is it falls within that parameter and so on. So I have no issue with protest. You take stone and you break government ministry glass, you're in problem. That's your issue. The police put up barriers and they tell you do not cross that. You cross that, the police arrest you. You go to the court. My point is, if you're going to arrest people, you say and charge them because they broke the law in a protest, you have to look at it from all angles, because there are people supporting your government and your party who break the law every day, doing things worse than that, and they get away with it.
That's what I'm
My
saying.
thing is, why you have one form of justice for one set and the form of justice for another set.
So we're setting ourselves up to be traumatized.
I'm not going to say anything here that will make people believe that if you go and protest and you break the law, you mash up somebody's property or you do something that you
I don't think anybody is for that. No.
You should get away.
No.
What I'm saying is there shouldn't be double standards. There shouldn't be double standards. There should not be double standards.
And that, for me, that is what, for me, tells me we're in a pickle. We're in a pickle, and the people have a responsibility to say, no, we don't want it like that. You might want it like that, but this is not Dominica. This is never been us. You've had little, like you say, Mama would say a little thing, but them kind of things there, no, sir. Like, this is exaggerated. It is too much. It is too much. And you become vulnerable to that. The government has been there for all of this time. And it's right now, it's like, like for me, it's just like top heavy, just on the people at this point, And so the people have to decide if their fear is bigger than their sense of responsibility for their future, their children's future, their grandchildren's future, if their fear is bigger than their requirement to speak up to their representatives, to call a meeting with your representatives and say, hey, you know, I love you, I like you, I want to support you, I support you. But this right here, I don't like it. I'm speaking up to my reps and saying, these things I've mentioned tonight, I do not like it. I don't see how it's benefiting the people. I think it's causing a lot of unnecessary pain. And that pain is rippling out. It's rippling out. It's not even as if it's one person that's getting harmed. We are so tiny, y'all. We are so tiny that the impact is so potent because we are so tiny. There's not enough space for it to diffuse itself. It's not as big as here or big as, say, Jamaica or Guyana, you know? It's too much for us. It's too much.
I mean, you are so on point. You are so on point. And saying that it's too much leads me to ask the question. I would like people viewing this program, whether now or later, to close their eyes for a few minutes and think of how such a move, such an action would affect a woman's family. She doesn't have a job anymore. And she was supposed to get some money at the end of her contract. You said she didn't make a mistake, but there was a lapse in judgment. And you are aiding and abetting and assisting in the woman
in her downfall, like it's destroying her life.
So close your eyes and think about the impact. You understand me? She's human. She's a woman. You know, I mean, that should never be happening. But
what's the point of it?
I'll tell you this. Let Bab come out of Pudi for who's how. That is a lesson, and I hope it reverberates. I hope it is resounding. You understand? I hope it is resounding, that people will understand that there are some people that view loyalty as what you can do for me while I have you. What you can do for me. It is not what we can achieve together. You understand? It is not that. And I hope some people are looking at that. Some of those who are silently talking to me, sitting in the cabinet and talking to other people, I hope they're getting the message. Because I am telling you, it's unfair. Say what you want about Loreen. Dislike her as much as you want. She is human. She has a family. She has children. She has bills to pay. You understand? And she didn't plan for that to happen to her, for her source of income to just stop like that. Because if she was going to resign, she would have prepared herself, maybe gotten commitment on another job.
And the thing about it is, it belongs to her.
You know?
She's not asking for a gift.
So she cannot get it, and her employability is severely damaged.
She's not asking for a gift. She's asking for what is due to her.
You know, now one may argue she may have breached the terms and conditions of her contract.
Come on, I don't know. That's not technicality.
Well, let me tell you, that's a defense that's going to come. Trust me.
But those are technicalities that deny the human being. And
what I'm saying,
we are too small for all of that.
Any mon qui breach contract, you come for. There are foreign people who carry diplomatic passports and have found themselves wanting, and they've been under the radar. You're not even hearing about them. This is a born and bred Dominican woman from the belly of Castle Bruce who took stones and abuse to join your organization, served in your cabinet, and you felt so comfortable with her. You took and you sent her to. I think that position is the most senior diplomatic position a country can have. You understand? She became a most senior diplomat. So all along you didn't have concerns about her. All the diplomatic relations she signed with Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and all the other places, you didn't have concerns. Let me say here, my friend, because I know what time is running out. Let me say here.
I want you to answer this question too before we leave.
Yeah, let me just say here. I am absolutely convinced. had the United States of America not raised its eyebrow about that signature, that signing of diplomatic relation with Syria, Loreen, would still be ambassador today.
I think most
So
of
this,
I think most Dominicans are of that
but of course,
mindset.
the
Yeah.
only reason that saw Loreen falling from
Yeah.
grace like that is because the United States started to breathe hot air.
Yeah.
Because there have been other decisions that have gone. Dominicans don't even know about certain diplomatic relations that was signed because nobody made a fuss. Syria obviously would raise some stakes and raise some eyebrows in the US. And the US started to talk behind the scene. And so somebody had to take the fall. You understand me? And she became the sacrificial
But I
lamb.
think what I hear you saying is, even if somebody did have to take the fall, this is still a human being. So why are we squeezing her even further?
Of course, she fall already. Her reputation is already taking a hit. So why hurt her and hurt her and hurt her again? Why?
What's the point of that? What's the point of that? So here's a question from Carlos. How do we fix this problem regarding the current cabinet members not agreeing, but being forced to be quiet? Forced, would you say physically forced? Do you say there's coercion? Would you say there's strong encouragement, admonition? What is it?
I believe there's just there's a permeating kind of
a fawning response, a
fawning silence, like almost don't you dare.
Yeah.
And it is felt in the room. It is felt around. Don't you even dare. You know, like sometimes you're somewhere, you're in church with your parents and you're making noise. You know, before when you go and they don't have to beat us, they just have to watch us like that.
Right.
And
it's a fawn response.
We're gonna get something after church.
It's a childish stress response.
Yes. Yeah. So to respond to Carlos, it is not for me to change the ministers saying anything. It's not for me. It's for the ministers to grow some testicular fortitude, find their inner resolve, and stand up, even if it means they being fired from the cabinet or they being ostracized from the cabinet. It is for them to say, you know what? I love my party. I love my country more, but I love my country more, and I will not stand and see that go on. We need some of those men and women in there, those who are talking to me and talking to other people, to stand up and speak, not just speak to me, because they know when they talk to me, I won't call their name, but I will say it. Right. They need to come out and let people respect them. Yeah. Let people respect them. That is how it should change. Not I can't change them. I can run my mouth for as much as I want. I can't change them. They have to realize
Dominica that still a democracy.
The last I checked, supposed to be.
On paper. But if you're telling me that this is what's happening, then how is it a democracy?
Well, practically, some of the things going on certainly does not give you the impression that these are democratic practices. You understand?
At the very least, the democracy is in trouble. At the very least.
And let me tell you, I am not afraid to say that there are a lot of things that concerns me about the governance of the country. Sadly, like I told somebody in the last week, sadly, until we get opposition voices who are ready to stand independent of being part of a body that in itself already has some questions, we may well see a repeating of the cycle again come the next election. Yeah. That is a sad and frightening thing.
Yeah. You know, as we talk about democracy is like, hey, anything, nothing stays stable. It's either you're either refining your democracy or you're letting it slide. I think maybe we didn't mean to, maybe the government did not even mean to. I don't know that they necessarily said, okay, this is our strategic plan and we're going to move towards less democratic, whatever, less free speech, less this, less that. But in practicality, in action, it seems like that's what's happening. And we have to wake up, step up, and engage more and speak up and say, I know for me, that's not what I want. I want the free flow of ideas. I want creativity. I want the individual sweetness and juiciness to flourish as it always has in Dominica, because there's a lot of work to be done. And if If we just say, well, I'm just going to leave it for my leaders, that just doesn't make any sense. That's
You know what happened to us? And you were so correct. For too long, we took our political liberties for granted.
for granted.
So what happened is a poacher saw the vacuum and the vulnerability, and they went in there, and it appears to be almost impossible now to get back to where we were, where we could be free. You know what somebody said to me, shared with me a couple of weeks ago, that they remember the days when it was Labour and Freedom, and Freedom Party would win, and next day Labour and Freedom singing the same song in the street. You don't even know who's Labour, who's Freedom. Right now, the politics goes from the day of election until the next election day, and division, hatred, bitterness. Now, nobody will convince me that our current political parties in Dominica have fed that because they feel it has worked in their interest.
There's value in it for them.
Opposition party, current party, they fed that as against speaking, listen, unity, and giving people, letting people know you are free to speak, you are free to criticize, you are free to say what you want. Stay away from threatening people's lives. Stay away from taking action which would cause you to land yourself in the hands of the law. But be free to speak.
Yeah.
If you call the radio today and say anything, say, I don't agree with the Prime Minister on something that he said or something he's done or an action he took. They must find out who you are. Who are your family? You have anybody going to school? You haven't worked in public service?
What?
But I'm telling you, it will happen. And they have to find out who you're supporting. Who you're supporting. That should never be. Because that person paid a tax.
But this is what totalitarian governments do.
But it happened in the previous government too, you know. Don't get me wrong.
Well, that's still wrong. That's still wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what I'm saying. It's been there and they've been feeding it. They've been feeding it. And that is why I continue to say that we need more independent thinkers to take the political stage. More independent thinkers.
Well, I hope you all are listening. You know, I look at these things like I say. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm a psychologist. I see the traumatic thread through these kinds of things. I look at and I think about the impact on regular people, like this woman, like you're saying, like on regular people who, many of them know businesses suffer. When business suffers, if I'm against the government and my business suffers, that means my kids suffer and my grandkids suffer. Dominica suffers. It's not in our best interest. It's not in our best interest.
Cannot be.
You know,
your job, you have a big job. You have a big job because what you've started there is beginning to take root, but it's a long process.
What I started is encouraging people to talk.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is a big job because people have been mute for a long time. Yeah, so now to find their consciousness again, to awake their consciousness is a big job for you. You in your profession has a big job. You've started, and I can tell you, my conversation with a lot of people has told me that they really gravitate to what you're doing. But you have to be in that, because Dominicans have been, if there's a word like mood for a long time, you know.
But that is so not in our best interest. That's
absolutely
the part
not.
That is so painful, you know, to think about, because even the government I don't think they even realize it. You know, again, you've been doing a thing for so long, you think, think about it. You know, like a parent who, it's so much easier to tell your child, do as I say and be quiet about it, versus your child has a different thought. You sit, you have a conversation with them about it, ta 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 ta. You might come up with something brand new idea based on this interaction. But I think our government might have gotten to this place of just almost reflexive. It's easier for us to do it this certain way. We found a formula that works for us, and that's what we're going to keep doing. But that means you're no longer considering the voices of your people, though. And I don't expect them to listen to every human being. That's impossible. How are they going to do that? But to be actively doing things that are hurting people, that is, you have so much power. Why do you need to do that? You already have so much power. What's the point? Why do you need to do that?
Yep.
Yeah, too many people are dependent on the hand. There's another topic which is just, this is not in the highest good of the whole, not in the highest good of the whole.
That's right.
Well, Marlon is telling you, put your hat in the ring for the independence. You know, as Patricia is saying, when a party's in government for too long, they take people for granted. It just must
Absolutely.
happen. It just must happen. And so the people have to decide, is this okay for me? Am I okay continuing with it as is? You're suggesting more independent candidates go up to shake this kind of frozen stalemate we've gotten ourselves into, and to help, you know, put the people who are acting badly on notice. Well, while we still can,
I know.
I
I
must say,
know.
while we still can,
I know.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mr. Paul, let me see what Winsty says. The branding of persons who express their opinions are wrong. We need to tell our leaders how we feel and what we need them to do for us. They're distracted with these. This is shenanigans. This is just shenanigans.
Oh, you think
Really,
they
what
don't
I need
know?
to see, what
Oh,
I
you think they,
really need to see is improvement in the country.
oh, you think
Focus
they
your
don't know what they need to
attention
do
there.
for us? You think they don't know what they need to do
They
for us?
do. They do. Focus your attention there. You know, it's just okay. Yvette says they've not sanctioned Syria. They went up to them on the other side. Okay, I don't know the rest of these. Let's end on Carlos's statement. Mervin says, but we know how Dominica political system is set up. It does not cater to independence from a candidacy point of view. So to suggest that people need to go up independent is a setup for failure. I think you are fully aware of that, he
I
said.
don't agree. I don't
Okay.
agree. No, I don't agree because I believe it is, you see, it is something we fed ourselves for many years that if you go up independent, you'll be a failure. I don't agree.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the politics is evolving, people's thinking are evolving, maturity, that is a thing of the past.
Mm-hmm.
That is a thing. It is you going on the ground, digging your heels in, and selling yourself to the people as to what you want to do. Independence have not. How many people we've had run independent in the past? A few people because of that same fear. Again, you use the word fear.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to change things. We have to change things. If we keep saying that all the time, we're never going to make it. We're never going to
Yeah.
get out of them.
Yeah. We need more doers. We need more doers.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Well, I'll
absolutely.
tell you what. As I wrap up, I'm going to review some of human beings' most common stress response patterns, right? When we are faced with stress or things that make us feel afraid or uncomfortable or worried and we're not sure what next to do, some of us, our preferred style is to freeze. We say, I'm not getting involved. Mm-mm. Yeah. Some of us, we turn tail and run. We run the other way. We are nowhere to be found. Flight. Okay. Some of us will faint, actually, just fall off. There's this fawning response, which is like, whatever you say, yes. This is what you describe to me when you say that the ministers, many of the ministers will do. It's like a mom or a dad, and they're fun, which is very sad because I have the image of grown men doing this fawning thing. I understand the importance of respecting authority, but that's different because you know we
Mm-hmm.
have a whole lot of other people we're also representing, and that's going
Mm-hmm.
to mean sometimes disagreeing with the person in charge. Efficient that's not efficient. We can also fight. I think I see many opposition forces in the country fighting reflexively, which is just everything the government does is horrible. Forget them. They're worse. They're wicked. They're this and they're that. And they call the people who support the party stupid and foolish to become verbally abusive in their rage. That's not efficient either. Look, you got to look at reality. What's in front of me? Hmm? Identify the problem. Hmm? Describe the problem. Come up with solutions for the problem. Try to come up with solutions that are efficient, they work fast, and they cause as little suffering as possible.
I
And
agree.
I can
I
offer.
agree. I agree. And just to put in my last word, um you know, I really like that caption, you know, political trauma, because we've been traumatized politically in this country for a while. And it's almost like, you know, when people have become so accustomed to a chronic pain,
Yeah.
that
Helplessness.
that when the pain goes away, they're frightened. They believe it's something that's happening to them, like they're going to die, because they become so accustomed to living with that pain. Or doctor tell you, listen, doesn't matter. You're going to have that pain all your life, because where that thing is on your spine, we can't touch it. If we touch it, you'll get crippled.
Yeah.
That is how we are. We've become, and that is why some people feel that when people like you and I speak, it's like we touching a nerve, or we're going to hurt their bobo, or that kind of thing, you know, hurt their bobo local. But you know, that kind of thing, you know, we and there's been a lot of political trauma, and the mere fact that you receive that message from the person telling you, hey, don't touch that, you know, because they're going to brand you, or they're going to say you're against the development, or you're against it, tells you what is going on. And it really hurts me, because I never saw that coming, man.
I didn't see it coming.
I didn't see that coming, you know? And I don't have to
either.
relitigate my involvement in advancing the cause of those who are there, but I innocently did what I had to, because I felt that everything there was in the best interest of the people. I didn't see those kind of things coming, and it hurts.
Well, I think, Mervin, too, I want to offer grace to the government, to the people we've elected. I want to say that, again, perspective, they might be seeing it from here, but they're not seeing what we're seeing. And I'm asking them to listen, because we are telling you what we are seeing. And you all know we are not unreasonable people. So we are telling you what we're seeing on the other side. And on the other side, it doesn't look all that awesome.
Boy, you've made that point, you've made that statement. Guess what? The guns will turn at you and I.
Well,
that is what will happen. It's not going to be listening with an objective mind as to what we're saying. The gun's going to turn on you and I, because we are going to be viewed as anti-government and anti-country and unpatriotic. That is what patriotism today is defined by, who you support, you know, in the country.
Well, that, you know, we can make new definitions of words as we go along, but that's not reality. You understand? So that's not reality. And all of us have to come back to reality, come back to reality, come back to reality. When you're doing a certain thing for a long time, you develop systems that you were not even meaning to develop. Okay? Limu does grow on stone where the water running down the same place the whole time. The stone wasn't planning for the limu. But if you are wise, you have to clean the limu, which is just a natural offshoot of just the way things work. You're not going to say that is a bad limu that come to kill me. No, limu just comes with that kind of thing. So you have a government and essentially the same set of people running the show for this long. Appreciate that you're a human being and you're going to be making mistakes, because your shortcomings, having shown up over and over and over and over again, which is just a natural part of a human being, we have our strengths and our weaknesses, it'll cause some limu. So you can say, no, limu doesn't belong to me. I doesn't make limu. I'm the only human being, my situation will not make limu. You understand? You can say that, but that is not a wise conclusion, because it makes no sense. It's not realistic. So let's deal as adults realistically. We have a situation, all people have voted us in for over and over and over and over again. But these same people are trying to tell you, we're seeing a lot of this right here. That's what you're showing, and you're very good over here, but back there leaves a lot to be desired, and it needs to be reassessed, reevaluated, so we can come up with some new strategies, because there are too many people hurting.
That's right. I still hope that I still hope that good sense can prevail, and these people can sit with the woman, sit with Loreen, and bring this thing to an amicable closure.
That's
And
my position.
let the woman move on with her life.
Let's
Man.
negotiate like adults.
Yeah, man. Don't be so insensitive, man, and allow people with their own agendas in the system to be so calculatedly malicious, man. You know, don't do that to people, man. Do not do that to people.
Because all of us know about karmic retribution. It's just a law of the universe, and
right.
like there's no need for it either. Let's, even if we can't look at it from a spiritual angle, let's look at it as just professionals. Just a regular, you going through a little divorce, you have a mediator, right? You have a little dispute, you have a mediator. Well, come on, let's offer each other some grace here. And at this point, there are too many people saying, ouch, it's time to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to pay attention. It's time to pay attention. So we can alleviate this trauma that we're seeing. Just
I want to leave you with that memory. I don't know if you follow Calypso.
Yes.
I used to follow Calypso a lot, And Ghost sang a song one time. This shoe squeezing me. And when he was asked about you see it, he said, "But it's my shoe, even if it's a red shoe, but it's my shoe. And I love my shoe, but it's squeezing me."
You're getting
so the people that give me the shoe have to know the shoe you give me, I love it, but it is squeezing me.
That's what I'm saying, we.
Oh my God.
That's what I say in Gamem.
I mean, that's what he said. He said, "I love my shoes, but it's just that it's too tight now. It's squeezing me." You know what I mean? So free it up a little bit. You remember when you had a big shoe, they tell our parents just put a finger in the episode who was stood, it will open up.
Yeah.
But my friend,
anyway,
I thank you so much.
I want to tell you thank you
man,
for coming on. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I'm here. I'm available. I'll be writing still. But I am open to speaking with you at any time. I believe, I must give you your credits before I leave. This program has taken off. The amount of people I talk to, and like I tell you, a lot of times I'm on, I just don't say anything. I like to internalize stuff and process stuff. But you have a lot of work. You started something, and you drop a bit, and a lot of people are biting on there. But I think it's a good thing because somebody had to give our consciousness a shock, run some electricity through our consciousness, and you're doing that. My only hope is that more people will do like me. Even if you were part of the process, come out and speak, man.
Yeah.
Come out and speak, because at the end of the day, if you save your country, then you save yourself as well,
Very well said, and I want them to, in addition to talking, like Marlon is saying, to start doing.
Yeah.
Because we are ready for prosperity in Dominica. All of us want to see her go like this. Okay?
That's right.
All right.
Bless you, my friend. Have a very, very, very productive and happy week, man. Good to see you again.
Have a good night, y'all.
All right. Bless you, everybody.
Peace.